Story 1. The Vanished Campers of Hoia-Baciu Forest. Background. Hoia-Baciu Forest, located in Romania, is often referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. This forest is infamous for its eerie atmosphere, strange lights, and unexplained disappearances. It has been a hotspot for paranormal researchers, and many believe the forest is a portal to another dimension. The story. In the summer of 1993, a group of 5 experienced campers decided to explore the depths of Hoia-Baciu Forest. They were drawn by the forest's dark reputation, eager to document any strange occurrences. On the first night, they set up camp in a clearing surrounded by unnaturally twisted trees. The air was heavy, and the usual sounds of the forest chirping birds, rustling leaves were eerily absent. Around midnight, one of the campers, Dan, spotted what appeared to be a floating orb of light hovering in the distance. As they approached it, the light vanished, leaving behind a faint, low-frequency hum that seemed to vibrate through their bones. The group retreated to their tents, unnerved but curious. The next day, they ventured deeper into the forest. As they walked, they noticed that their compass needles began to spin uncontrollably and their GPS devices lost signal. Despite their growing unease, they pressed on, hoping to find the source of the strange energy. By nightfall, they had reached a circular patch of dead vegetation, perfectly round, with no apparent cause. They decided to set up camp there, thinking it would make for compelling footage. That night, the forest came alive with whispers, indistinct voices echoing from all directions. The campers huddled together, straining to make sense of the words, but they were in a language none of them could understand. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and a dense fog rolled in, enveloping the camp. Visibility was reduced to mere inches, and the whispers grew louder, almost frantic. Then, without warning, one of the campers, a woman named Anna, began to scream. Her body convulsed as if possessed by an unseen force. Her friends tried to hold her down, but she was unnaturally strong. Her eyes rolled back into her head. Just as quickly as it had started, the episode ended, leaving Anna unconscious. The group decided to abandon their exploration and head back to civilization at first light. But when morning came, Anna was gone. Her tent was intact, but there was no sign of her. The remaining campers searched the area, but the dense fog had wiped away any tracks. In a panic, they began to make their way out of the forest, but the path seemed to twist and turn, leading them in circles. Hours later, they stumbled upon the same circular patch of dead vegetation where they had camped the night before. Desperation set in as they realized they were lost. They heard Anna's voice calling out to them, but it was distorted, as if coming from underwater. When they followed the voice, it led them deeper into the forest, where they found her standing perfectly still, her back turned to them. When they approached, she slowly turned around, revealing a face that was not her own, pale, gaunt, and devoid of emotion. The remaining campers fled in terror, leaving behind all their equipment. Only 2 of the 5 made it out of the forest, disoriented and in shock. They reported their experience to the authorities, but no trace of Anna or the other missing campers was ever found. The footage they captured was blurred and distorted, with only the faint sound of whispers audible on the tapes. 3 key events. 1. The appearance of the floating orb and the eerie hum. 2. Anna's violent possession and subsequent disappearance. 3. The discovery of the doppelganger figure in the forest, leading to the ultimate disappearance of 3 of the campers. Story 2. The Curse of Aokigahara Forest. Background. Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees, lies at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan. It is infamous for being one of the most popular suicide spots in the world, with hundreds of people taking their lives in its dense, shadowy woods. The forest is said to be haunted by the restless spirits of those who died there, with many claiming to have experienced strange phenomena. The story. In the spring of 2010, a group of paranormal investigators traveled to Aokigahara Forest to document the eerie legends surrounding it. They planned to spend 3 days and nights in the forest, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. The group consisted of 4 members: Yuki, the leader; Haruto, the tech expert; Sora, the medium; and Takumi, the skeptic. On their first day, they wandered deep into the forest, noticing how the trees seemed to swallow sound. Even their footsteps were muffled, as if the forest was absorbing all noise. They came across several abandoned tents and belongings, remnants left behind by those who had ventured into the woods and never returned. That night, Sora, the medium, began to feel an overwhelming sense of dread. She reported hearing whispers in Japanese, begging for help, but when she tried to communicate with the spirits, they grew hostile. The temperature plummeted, and the forest became unnervingly quiet. Then, out of nowhere, the group heard a blood-curdling scream that seemed to come from all directions at once. The following day, they discovered a set of footprints leading deeper into the forest, but they were odd, too large and irregular to be human. Despite the growing tension, Yuki insisted on following the tracks, believing they would lead to something significant. As they followed the trail, Sora's condition worsened. She began to mutter incoherently, her eyes glazed over as if in a trance. That night, as they set up camp, Takumi, the skeptic, began to see shadowy figures moving between the trees. He dismissed them as tricks of the light, but as the night wore on, the figures became more distinct. They appeared to be humanoid but distorted, their limbs unnaturally long, and their faces featureless. Suddenly, Sora let out a terrifying scream and collapsed to the ground, convulsing violently. The group tried to revive her, but she remained unresponsive. Desperate, Yuki and Haruto decided to leave the forest immediately, carrying Sora between them. However, as they retraced their steps, they realized they were going in circles. The forest seemed to shift around them, the trees growing denser and more menacing. As dawn approached, they stumbled upon a clearing where they found a large ancient tree. Tied to its branches were hundreds of nooses swaying gently in the breeze. At the base of the tree lay dozens of bodies, some skeletal, others more recent. Among them was a woman who looked exactly like Sora, her face twisted in a silent scream. Panicked, they turned to find Sora standing behind them, her expression blank. She pointed to the tree and whispered, "This is where it ends." At that moment, the shadowy figures reappeared, surrounding the group. The figures began to close in, their movements jerky and unnatural. Haruto tried to fight them off, but his hands passed through them as if they were made of smoke. Yuki screamed for help, but her voice was swallowed by the forest. In a final act of desperation, Takumi grabbed Sora and ran, leaving Yuki and Haruto behind. He didn't stop until he was out of the forest, his lungs burning and his heart racing. When he reached the edge of the woods, he looked back and saw that Sora had disappeared. Only Takumi made it out of Aokigahara, and to this day, he refuses to speak of what happened in the forest. The footage they recorded was found near the ancient tree, but it was corrupted, filled with strange, unexplainable noises and images. 3 key events: Sora's possession by hostile spirits and the mysterious footprints, the encounter with the shadowy, distorted figures in the forest, the discovery of the ancient tree with nooses, and the doppelganger of Sora, leading to the group's final confrontation. Thanks for watching, and we hope you were thoroughly spooked. Don't forget to subscribe for more horror content, and check out our other videos right here. Who knows what other mysteries are lurking in the shadows? Default text.